UFC Fight Night Hermansson versus Pyfer takes place this Saturday, and we've got all your picks and fight breakdowns coming up next. Stay right here.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the 10-7 MMA. I'm DS, and I'm here with my guy, the one and only Dino Bam Bam.
What up, DS? I feel like we just did this, bro. I'm getting some crazy deja vu on this card.
We did. So clearly, typically, we drop our breakdown video on Mondays. We had some technical difficulties in post-production, let's say. So, unfortunately, this is just how we're going to play it. What we're going to do here is we're going to go quickly through the entire Fight Night card coming up this weekend, Hermansson versus Pyfer. We're going to just be really brief and kind of our general thoughts on the fight. Bam Bam will go, I'll go. And then we're combining this with, of course, the weekly parlay video that we've been doing. And so what we're going to do with that is at the end of every fight, I'm going to kind of just give you my rundown of where my head's at as far as betting goes on that particular fight. We'll try to keep it moving. We'll try to keep it fast. And at the end, we'll just give you the parlay, right? Baby, anything else before we jump into it?
No, just the only thing is if you guys are enjoying the content or have enjoyed previous content or are looking forward to the ridiculously spicy content we're cooking up next week for Volk versus Potieria, do us a favor. Click the subscribe button. Ring the little bell. Dino, I'm going to make you do it again. Go ahead. Boop. That's the sound of the bell, guys. Ring that bell. That notifies you when our videos drop. Also, you can follow us on Instagram at the107MMA. I'm down to do this rushed video, Dino, this quick-ass video. But next week, we're dropping a whole bunch of separate videos. Shit's going to be off the chain.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that. But let's dive right into it, man. We've got 14 fights on the docket. First one of the night is Daniel Marcos versus Ihor Kileng. What do you think about this one?
All right, man. Let's start with Daniel Marcos. As I've mentioned before, not my favorite undefeated fighter in the UFC, Dino, but he is undefeated. I believe he's like 15-0 or something like that. Look, man, we'll see if he makes it to the cage this time. He usually doesn't. Good striker, good power, good in the clinch, nice knees, elbows, cardio's good. He's just not like too much of a finisher. That's kind of the thing that, sticks out to me about this guy. He has the ability to go the distance and get the win. So that's nice. What I don't love, Dino, was last time out against Davey Grant. I got the feeling that like being undefeated kind of got to him. And like he's doing anything necessary to preserve being undefeated. And that's leading him to fight like a little more defensively than I would like to see a guy of like, this skill and stature fight. He's fighting Ihor Kileng, another well-rounded guy. Gets super damn brawly. He does have some decent technical striking, but he likes to get into a scrap. We've seen him grappling a little bit as of late. A ton of fights on his record too, man. A 36-fight veteran. I have to go with Daniel Marcos here, Dino. I feel like he gets the decision. He should be too technical. He should have too much power and be too dynamic for Ihor Kileng. So I feel like Marcos by decision is a pretty safe bet. But I don't know how long he's going to stay undefeated for.
Yeah. You broke it down. Like we're trying to keep this short, so I don't really have a lot to add. For me, Ihor Kileng has really one way to win this fight. It's to land a big shot and get the knockout. And we have seen him do that in the past. My thing is that Daniel Marcos is so sound defensively, right? So I really see him kind of staying out of the way of the big shots. I hope he's not too apprehensive with his own shots because he can be a little bit too calculated at times. But, yeah, I think this is his fight to lose. In my opinion, it's kind of a step down from Davey Grant personally. So, yeah, I just think he's too sound. I think he's going to land more shots on the feet and just end up outpointing Ihor Kileng. From a betting perspective, I actually do like this fight. I am going to take Daniel Marcos. The line is kind of wide, obviously, at minus 265. Unless he really gets caught by a big shot, I think that's really the only way for Ihor Kileng to win it. I'll take Daniel Marcos at the money line here all day.
Is that going to be on your parlay?
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Oh, okay, gotcha. For sure.
All right, moving on to the second fight of the night. We've got Hyder Emil, and he is making his UFC debut, first of all, coming over from Dana White's Dancing with the Stars. And it's Hyder Emil, and he's taking on Fernie Garcia, who thus far has lost all three of his UFC fights. Hyder Emil has been in a lot of close fights. We've seen him on the regional scene in some close fights, so you don't necessarily love to see that, but he's still so raw. He's 8-0. He barely has any experience. He looked good on the Contender Series, though. He took on a tough grappler, managed to stay on his feet for the most part. landed some decent shots. Yeah, I mean, for me, I just see him winning this, right? For me, I guess the thing is that Fernie Garcia really hasn't shown me anything. He's 0-3 in the UFC. He hasn't looked great. He didn't look too bad against, was it Rinya
Rinu
that he took
Nakamura,
on?
yeah.
Yeah, he didn't look too bad against Rinya Nakamura, but yeah, I just don't see it, man. I think Hyder Emil is just the better fighter. Yeah, I mean, that's really all it comes down to for me. Fernie Garcia, I think, is a perfect kind of first fight for him in the UFC.
Yeah, fair. And then one thing to note here, Dino, is the odds were a little different when we recorded this 2 days ago. Short notice, and Fernie was minus 250. So if there was a time to bet, it probably passed. But I
Wow.
do, yeah, I do agree with you. I feel like short
That's a
notice.
huge swing.
Yeah, it's a huge swing, man. But it's because of the reasons you said, right? Like Fernie hasn't really shown us too much. 0-3 in the UFC, like decent grappling, but like, it's kind of been like, I don't know. The grappling's kind of been his kryptonite. Not that I necessarily think Hyder Emil is going to go out there and wrestle fudge this guy, but he fought Rinya Nakamura. That was a grappler. Who else was it? I know he fought Journey Newsom, but that's not the one I was thinking of. There's one more fight.
There was one fight between those two.
Oh, Brady
I just
Heisman.
think Hyder Emil is going to be the aggressor. I just think he's
Yeah.
going to be the more aggressive fighter. And I think in a fight like this, it's going to be enough.
Yeah, I agree with you. I see. I'm going Hyder Emil all day.
It was Brady Heisman, by the way.
Yeah, Brady Heisman. Shout out. Ultimate Fight. I love that season of the Ultimate Fighter, by the way. But Hyder Emil by decision.
Yeah, I'm taking Hyder Emil by decision too. It's a guy making his debut, so I don't know that I necessarily love picking somebody in this when it comes to from a betting perspective. I do like, however, the over 2.5 here. You're not getting great odds, minus 238 on that one, but I just don't really see anybody getting a finish here. Hyder Emil, he does have a handful of knockout wins. Fernie Garcia is, he's still in the UFC, right? He's not like a complete schlub. So they're not the biggest guys. They don't have a ton of power, especially Fernie. So I will take the over 2.5 on that one in the parlay.
Nice.
All righty. Moving on to the third fight of the night. We've got Zach Pauga. This is his second fight, I believe, at 205, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
At least, in the UFC here. And he's taking on Bogdan Guskov. What do you think about this one?
All right, let's start with Zach Pauga, man. Big power. He used to have the grappling, Dino. I don't know where it went. He literally does not use that grappling at all anymore. Former football player. I believe he was in the NFL. An aggressive striker. He's coming to us from the Ultimate Fighter, so he's kind of been through that gauntlet. Interested to see which Zach Pauga shows up. Is it the new one that's just throwing bombs, or is it going to be the one that used to utilize his grappling? I honestly think that was a better version of Zach Pauga. He's fighting Bogdan Guskov, another guy with big power, good speed for his size for me, good footwork. We've seen him have some solid wrestling as well. He lost his UFC debut to Volkan Oezdemir. I don't know how much to make of that. I really do believe Volkan Oezdemir still at this old age is still a premier guy. Maybe, he's not that top 5 guy. He's not going to contend for titles anymore, but he is a dude that is legit, man. So to me, Dino, I think we disagree on this one, but I'm going Guskov. I think he's the more dangerous fighter by a good bit. I think he's very aggressive, and I can't trust Zach Pauga anymore. So I'm going Bogdan by first round KO.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, we do disagree on it. Listen, I'm not a huge Zach Pauga guy. I do think that he's better than I initially thought because I was originally absolutely not a fan. And also, he was kind of just like a fat light heavyweight, fat middleweight. Now he's at least somebody who looks like he's in decent shape at light heavyweight. So, listen, the cardio is not great. He's kind of hittable himself. He can be too aggressive at times, but I don't know. The eye test, Guskov doesn't really pass it for me. He's very tall, rangy. He looks like the Uzbek Anthony Smith. He's got big power, like you said. I kind of expect Zach Pauga to use some of that wrestling, honestly. And I think he'll be able to land some good shots from top position. I'm going to go Pauga first round KO. Or TKO maybe. So I just think he catches him at some point. Guskov holds his hands really, really low. I just don't love that for him. I think he's going to get caught at some point. And his movements are just like choppy and awkward. I don't know. I'm just, maybe it's just a personal thing, but I'm not a huge fan of the style.
It's not you. It's just a personal thing. Shout out Dickie. But one more thing to note on this fight, the odds are getting closer. So at the time of originally recording this, Bogdan Guskov was like a plus 120 or something like that. It's damn near a pick 'em now. So interested to see where that kind of goes.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, betting wise, I'm not touching this fight because let's be real, it's Zach Ponga. I mean, he's a decent fighter. I'm not like huge on him. We haven't seen a ton of Guskov. I don't love this style, but he absolutely is live for a knockout too. So I just don't love it for betting. Moving
Let's
on.
get it.
Fourth fight of the night, we've got Jeremiah Wells, absolute unit of a human being. He's taking on Max Griffin. I'm sorry, and
Max
it's at
Payne, baby.
170. It's at 170, of course. And I mean, these are two veterans, right? You've got two UFC veterans going at it. For me, Max Griffin, he's 19-10, right? And he's taking on a guy with massive, massive power in Jeremiah Wells. And of course, he's live for a knockout. For Max Griffin, he's got an interesting kind of style. He's built to go 3 rounds, I just don't see it going 3 rounds, right? Jeremiah Wells is live for a sub, in my opinion. He's live for a KO, in my opinion. And for me, I think the biggest difference here is going to be the wrestling. I just think how physically strong Jeremiah Wells is and how good of a wrestler he is, combined with the threat of the hands. I just think it's going to be a little bit too much for Max Griffin. I'm going to go TKO by Jeremiah Wells in the 2nd round.
All right, so I'm with you on Jeremiah Wells winning this fight. However, I'm not with you on how it ends and when it ends. I do think it'll go 3 rounds. I think it'll finish in the 3rd round, I should say. I feel like Max Payne Griffin, as of late, his cardio's kind of been, it's been wearing down. The guy's getting older.
I mean, he's what, 30? He's 30,
37, 38, something like that.
I mean, that's up there, and it's not like a tiny weight division.
That's what I'm saying. So I just feel like, look, Jeremiah Wells, man, he's strong. The grappling's great. As you mentioned, he is a scary ass looking dude. He's teammates with Joe Pyfer. They're doing a ton of grappling out there. So yeah, I feel like the grappling will be there, and then the wrestling will be there. The takedown will be there. And then I feel like Griffin's cardio necessarily won't go through 15 minutes. So I see a late sub for Jeremiah Wells. Round 3, I'll go RNC.
Okay. I don't dislike that. As far as betting, bro, I had this originally in the parlay. It's just, we've seen Jeremiah Wells do some funny things at times. I'm just not that comfortable with it. So it's close, though. If you want to get spicy with it, throw Jeremiah Wells in there.
Let's go.
All right. Next fight coming up. It's the 5th fight of the night. We've got Devin Clark, and he's, of course, taking on Marcin Prachnio. This is, of course, at 205. Bam Bam, what do you think about this one?
Good question, Dino, because I do want to talk about Devin Clark here for a second. He's one of those guys, man, that I just cannot get a read on. He's one of the toughest guys in the UFC for me to understand. I don't know if he's really good, if he's really bad, or if he's somewhere in between. I feel like he probably lies in between somewhere, right? Because his record would indicate that. So check this out, Dino. 8-8 record in the UFC. Here's how it goes: win-loss, 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 win-win, loss-loss, win-loss, win-loss.
Yep.
There's never any sort of streak going on. He's a good grappler. He's a solid striker, good power, decent clinch, good ground and pound. There's not too much to knock on him. His chin is definitely very suspect. It's weird. Sometimes it looks good. Sometimes it doesn't. I expect him to do good, and then he does poorly. I expect him to do poorly, and then he wins the fight. That's Devin Clark, man. I feel like you never know. It's a coin flip. And then Marcin Prachnio, karate guy in his past life, hundreds of karate fights. He's pretty damn brawly at times in the MMA cage. He's got good power. Another dude with sort of a weird chin. Sometimes it holds up and sometimes it doesn't. Even though he has a 3-inch height disadvantage here, Dino, I am going to go with Devin Clark. He just needs to avoid the massive shots of Marcin Prachnio. That's kind of how I feel this fight.
Yo.
What?
Yeah, he's just going to be giving him massive shots.
Massive shots, baby. Hey, come on.
Back shots.
Pause. But yeah, he needs to avoid the huge shots. Then he needs to go for his own takedown.
Yo, I'm sorry.
That's fine. All right.
That's crazy.
Can we be adults here? Can we be adults? Yeah. Anyways.
Yep.
So yeah, I said, bro, he's at a 3-inch disadvantage too, which is wild. Which is absolutely massive amount of inches. But anyway, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Clark, but I am taking him here. I feel like his losses come to really high level guys, and I don't necessarily know that Marcin Prachnio is a high level guy in the UFC. And now you get to go, and if you say anything fucked up, I'm going to be on you.
I was gonna start it off with just letting you know how goddamn thick Devin Clark is. That boy got a booty and he got some thick ass thighs, bro. So
You got the gyat.
he got the yacht for sure, as the kids these days say. Yeah, you broke it down, man. Devin Clark is a guy you don't really know who he is. The record kind of shows that. He's still somehow only 33 years old, which I was tripping off of. Prachnio has a better technique as a striker, but I think this one's going to come down to mentality, man, and mindset, right? And just mental toughness and testicular fortitude, brother, right? Because Devin Clark is a guy that him and his ass, they don't quit, right? So he's got a lot of fight in him. I think he's going to be pushing forward, trying to work in some takedowns and things like that. Marcin Prachnio, he's fairly, one-dimensional, right? He doesn't have a whole lot on the ground. We've seen him gas early a bunch of times. And I've seen him kind of like, not necessarily quit, but like I feel like when he's beaten or when he's being beaten down, like you can kind of see it. Whereas Devin Clark, dude, do you remember that fucking brutal ass injury that he had that he just casually that was just insane, dude. If you haven't seen that, go look that shit up. I think it's going to be a fairly close fight, but I too am going to take Devin Clark by decision here. From a betting perspective, I did think about throwing this into the parlay, but it's just because, like you said, man, it's Devin Clark. I don't love betting on somebody like that when I'm just not sure who the fuck they are. So, moving on to an absolute R girl, and her name is Loma Lookboonmee, and she's taking on Bruna, Brazil, and at the 115 weight class. Listen, man, I think I've decided that Loma is probably my favorite female fighter right now. I think she's taken the spot. She just fights like a goddamn animal. She's 5'1", unbelievable Muay Thai style. She just goes for it, man. Her grappling is pretty good too. So she's goddamn good everywhere. In this fight, in my opinion, she's better everywhere. We've seen Bruna Brazil. She got a knockout against Marnik Man, 5 foot tall, little bald, poor lady. Marnik Man just like looks like some woman, like some Minnesotan woman who just came in and started fighting. I don't know if she's from there, but now looking back on it, it's like, yeah, she had a sick knockout against her, but it's like she's already out of the UFC, right? So Bruna Brazil for me, overhyped. I don't think she's that good, to be honest with you. Yes, she does have a 5-inch height advantage in this one. I just don't see it, man. I mean, she's got some jiu-jitsu too, but Loma can hold her own on the ground. For me, I really, really, really like Loma. I think she's going to school her ass on the feet, to be honest with you. It's a women's fight. I could absolutely see a finish. I think Bruna is tough enough to withstand it, though. I'm going to go Loma by unanimous decision.
Snap. Loma Lookboonmee, definitely an R girl. I love her as well, man. Super fun fighter, fun striking. Like you said, we've seen her use the grappling. I love that, man. Dino, if this fight stays on the feet, even with the height discrepancy, I agree with you. I'm going with Loma Lookboonmee. The concern here is that Bruna is absolutely huge for the weight class, and she's a lot bigger than Loma is. So she could make it kind of boring, just lay up against her on the cage, or if she's able to get a takedown, just control on the ground. Even with all that, I'm still sticking with Loma Lookboonmee. I think she does her thing. She wins a striking battle here, edges out a close decision.
Yep. Yeah, and then from a betting perspective, listen, I mean, you might think I'm tripping here, but I am going to put it in the parlay, man. I'm taking Loma Lookboonmee on the money line, even at the minus 285 odds. I'm just that damn confident in her. I just think she is really, really good, and she's so exciting to watch, right? But I just don't see it, man. I don't think Bruna has like the power to hold her against the cage, really. Loma is like a little goddamn pit bull. So I'm going to do it. This is insane. It's a women's fight. The odds are out of whack, in my opinion. They should be a little bit closer at least. Probably should be minus 195, something like that. But fuck it, man. Give me Loma. I'll take her. Moving on to the 7th fight of the night. And this one was just recently added. It was supposed to be Bolaji making his UFC debut against my countryman, Damir Hadrovic. Instead, he's taken on Timothy Cuamba, who is also making his UFC debut. Dino Bam Bam, what do you think about this one?
All right, Bolaji. He's a striker. Dino, he's got good power, good jab, pretty damn explosive. Of course, he is making his UFC debut here. Both guys are making their UFC debut. He's coming to us from Dana White's Contender Series, a.k.a. Dancing with the Stars. He's not too much of a takedown threat. He does do a good job staying on his feet when you try to take him down. He's not easily taken down. 28 years old, explosive, pretty marketable. What do we do here? We originally gave him Damir Hadjovic. He ended up pulling out. So what do? We give him Timothy Cuamba, a guy that is making his UFC debut on like 2 days' notice. And he also fought like 4 days ago, which is pretty damn good.
Literally 6 days ago, I think.
Yeah, legit. So he's up in weight class here as well. Super short notice. Like I said, fought last week. He, of course, was also on Dana White's Contender Series last season, I believe. And he won but didn't get the contract. He's got good speed, good power. He's a striker. Everything he does is pretty damn technical. Decent takedowns. Nothing to really hate on the guy, but he's small. He's undersized for the division. He's taken this on extremely short notice. I don't know how anyone would be able to pick him here. I feel like the odds need to be a lot wider. I imagine they will separate a little further than where they're at now. Yeah, I'm going Bolaji Oki. I think this fight is a picture-perfect way to make your UFC debut, round 2 TKO.
Yep. Yeah, I also am going to go with Bolaji Oki. I was picking him against Hadjovic too, for what it's worth. Yeah, pretty much exactly what you said, man. This guy's making his UFC debut on 4 days' notice. Props to him. You got to take the opportunities when they present themselves, of course. But, for me, there's going to be a distinct power advantage for Bolaji Oki. And this guy's up a weight class too now. I mean, I just don't love it. Exactly like you said. How can somebody pick him? From a betting perspective, it's just too many unknowns. Who the hell knows what could happen? These are two guys making their UFC debut. Are they going to be nervous? Is this guy feeling a little bit healthier because he didn't cut weight at all? Who knows? Too many unknowns. I'm going to skip it. I'm not adding this to the parlay.
Let's go.
Moving on to the 8th fight of the night. It's Trevin Giles, and he is taking on UFC newcomer Carlos Prates. And this should be a fun fight, man. I mean, Trevin Giles is obviously a UFC veteran. He kind of reminds me of Devin Clark in some ways, right? Where it's like you don't really know kind of where he stands. He's fought a lot of big-name guys. He's lost a lot of fights too. He hasn't looked great lately. In my opinion, he kind of has looked a little sluggish lately. He's looked a little bit slow with the hands. He was absolutely outclassed by Bonfim, right? So, and we saw what BSD just did to Bonfim not too long ago. Obviously, those are two high-level fighters in their own rights. Levels to this shit, right? But, for me, Carlos Prates just has absolutely devastating Brazilian Muay Thai, great knees, stiff-ass hands. A lot of these guys that come in with this kind of style, they come in throwing a bunch of spinning kicks and heel kicks and all this shit. He does that stuff too, but he also has a beautiful 1-2, really, really stiff, powerful, and fast straight punches. I just think he's too accurate, too fast, too strong. He's got a laser, right? So for me, most of his losses have come by sub. Trevin Giles not going to do that. Trevin Giles might try to mix in some grappling, but I just think Carlos Prates is too explosive, man. I'm going to take him by KO in the second round.
All right. Man, I agree with you. I'm also going Prates round 2 KO. It's a scary fight though, man. I don't want to count out Trevin Giles. I do think we know he has good power. We know he's a veteran. He's kind of been through it all. But maybe I'm just enamored by this new toy because, bro, Carlos Prates, you mentioned like these new fighters coming in and like throwing the kicks and like I'm enamored by his kicks. I think they're phenomenal. Yeah. They're super strong. They're snappy. They're whippy. I'm interested to see if the newcomer here can get a win. And if you get a win over a guy like Trevin Giles, that's absolutely no joke, man. So
I think
what he's doing.
I think it shows you how highly they think of him when they're starting him off with Trevin Giles.
Yeah.
So did I talk about betting here?
No,
I didn't. So from a betting perspective, I was very, very close to throwing in Carlos Prates. The odds are just a little bit out of reach, in my opinion. Minus 250 is pretty aggressive. I do think he's going to win. So, if you're feeling spicy, throw it in.
Let's go.
9th fight of the night, we've got Rodolfo Vieira, and he's taking on Armen Petrosyan. This is an interesting one. Dino Bam Bam, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so this is a rebooking from a fight that was supposed to happen a couple months ago. And then I mentioned this to you like a couple days ago. I saw something that said this fight was canceled again, but I guess not. It's still on, so we're going with it. Rodolfo Vieira, super big dude, man. Freakishly strong dude. Looks freakishly strong. Insanely high-level BJJ guy. He's like a multiple-time Brazilian jiu-jitsu champion, right? So he's a national champion.
Looks like he's like 44.
He looks like he's 44, and he's like not. He's like in his late 20s, right?
I think he's like 33 or some shit.
It's crazy. But anyways, we know what his game plan is, right? He's going to get the shit to the ground. He's going to go for the sub. That's what he wants to do. The striking, on the other hand, it's okay. It's not, it's nothing special, but it's not one of those guys that's like a butt scooting jujitsu dude.
Yeah.
Imagine if he
you're
was
you're still on Trevin Giles versus Prates, so you might want to just
Yeah.
flip
Great
that.
call.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. So these are the guys that are fighting. But great call, Dino. Way to be observant, brother.
Yes.
But yeah, like I said, so with Vieira, he's not one of those like butt scooting guys. Could you imagine being that thick and like yoked and scary looking? And you're just like, come down here and fight me, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
come down here. But anyways, he's taking on Armen Petrosyan. We know Armen Petrosyan is a kickboxer. Good power, great chin. We saw that in the Gregory Rodrigues fight where he caught just like a flush kick to the mouth. And he was fine. He was like pouring blood, but he was cool. Last time out, he beat CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan. I was very interested in that fight. So Petrosyan, man, he looks pretty good. I don't really need to break this down too much further, Dino. It's very grappler versus very striker. That's what this is. If it's on the feet, Armen wins. If it's on the ground, it's not close. Rodolfo Vieira wins this fight. Does Rodolfo Vieira get a takedown? I think yes. Therefore, I think he gets a sub. So Rodolfo Vieira round 2 sub is what I'm going
with. Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Armen Petrosyan, man. I'm just kind of on you broke it down exactly, so I agree with your breakdown. I'm just going the other way. I just think Armen Petrosyan has good enough takedown defense to keep it on the feet. Rodolfo Vieira does not have much on the feet, in my opinion. Armen Petrosyan is not like a big power striker. So, I've gone back and forth on, is it going to be by knockout? I think I'm going to go by decision. I just think Armen Petrosyan has good enough takedown defense to keep it standing. And quite frankly, Rodolfo Vieira doesn't really have great wrestling, right? So
with.
I think he's going to have a tougher time getting it to the ground. And on the feet, he just doesn't really have much, man. I mean, he was getting his ass kicked in the stand-up badly by who was it, bro? Wrestler guy. 1 second. I gotta figure it out now. By Cody Brundage, right? So, and badly. He almost had him finished. So I'm gonna go Petrosyan by decision here. From a betting perspective, obviously the line is really, really close. I don't think I picked this. No, I didn't pick anything here. It was just, like you said, man, if it does get to the ground, if Armen Petrosyan's even maybe a little hurt or something, the sub is very, very live. So, and it certainly could go to decision too, either way. But yeah, I just don't love it for betting.
I just want to throw this in, Dino. This is probably my least confident pick on the card. I know the odds are super duper close, but they are very indicative of how I feel. Like it is a coin flip.
Yeah.
I just think at some point we'll get to the ground and then a sub, as you mentioned, very live.
Yep. Yeah. It's very, very close for me. It's top 2 or 3 on the card for sure. So
Yep.
Moving on, 10th fight of the night, we've got UFC vet at 21-19, Michael Johnson, and he is taking on Darrius Flowers. That's an insane record, dude. That's an insane record. This is a wild fight, right? These are two guys with good power. Darrius Flowers is finally fighting in MMA where he used to box in boxing, right? When he was a pro boxer, I think his record was like 2-7, 2-8, not very good. But, MMA boxing is different than actual boxing, right? So, for me, it's just really what this comes down to is Michael Johnson's chin, man. I just don't really trust it, right? We know who Michael Johnson is, right? What's the joke that you always say? He could finish John Jones tomorrow and then the next day get knocked out by Macy Barber, right? So, I mean, you pretty much said it with that, right? And we've seen literally both. He finished Dustin Poirier, right? Yeah. And then goes and loses to like just some scrubs or so to speak, scrubs. But Flowers, like I said, making his debut at lightweight. He's got hands. He's got decent power. I think he'll have a little bit more power moving down a weight class in terms of how it scales. Questionable chins on both sides. I just can't trust an aging Michael Johnson who just recently was knocked out. I'm going to go with Darrius Flowers with a first-round knockout here. This is also a fight that I'm very, very low confidence in. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, you basically said it all. I just want to give Michael Johnson his flowers, pardon the pun there. But, a guy that's 21-19, 13-15 in the UFC, absolute fucking anomaly. He's beat some of the best guys. He has wins over Tony. You mentioned the Dustin Poirier one, Gleison Tibau, Edson Barbosa. Then he's also fought and lost to guys like Khabib, Beneil, Nate Diaz, Gaethje. Clay Guida. Like, he's fought everybody, dude. He's one of those guys that's here. He's down to scrap anyone at any time. So it looks like we're getting towards the end of his career. He's 37 years old. Damn, he might be approaching 500 at like 40 fights, which is fucking
Is that
wild.
insane? I want to see him get to 500.
That'd be absolutely wild. He's taking on Flowers, throws absolute bombs, rushes forward with his hands up. Good takedowns, man. Aggressive slams. He seemed hella scary as a prospect before his first UFC fight. And then he fought Jake Matthews, so things have kind of settled down from like where the buzz was. I'm rooting for Michael Johnson, but as you said, I can't pick him, especially after the brutal KO last time out against Diego Ferreira. I'm going Flowers by KO. So, guys, do yourselves a favor. To end all this, just go watch Michael Johnson versus Justin Gaethje, one of my personal all-time favorite fights. Fucking banger.
Wait, versus Gaethje?
Yeah.
Okay, hell yeah. Wait, and then from a betting perspective, there's no fucking chance I'm touching this, by the way. I mean, that should go without saying. So, anyways, 11th fight of the night, we've got one of my guys, Brad Tavares, and he is taking on Gregory Rodrigues at 185, of course. Bam Bam, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, love this fight, man. It has, banger written all over it, fight of the night written all over it. We'll start with Tavares. He's been here for a hot minute, 15-8. He's fought super high level comp, great striker, good takedown defense. Last time out, he beat Chris Weidman, which I think kind of lost him some fans because a lot of people wanted to see Chris Weidman come back and obviously get a win after the devastating injury. And then Tavares was like,
they could have given him an easier fight too, though, to be honest. But
100%. But they figured just like some dude, they're gonna stand up and scrap a little bit, even though Weidman's a wrestler. But he was just like, I'm not going to kick you in the leg, Chris Weidman. And then he ended up just like viciously fucking kicking his legs.
But didn't he kick his other leg?
Well, yeah, he messed up both of them. It was like you on the hurt one that caused him to like change stance. And then the other one got absolutely destroyed. It was sad. But anyways, not a very nice thing to do if you're Brad Tavares. He's taking on RoboCop, aka Brazil Obama. Look, who doesn't love RoboCop, dude? He is fun. BJJ black belt, but great striking, good power. He's such a fun fighter to watch.
My fellow Americans, follow Galera,
fight your pass and things like that. He's fun, man. He's willing to slug it out. I was actually just watching for no reason. I was watching him versus Armen Petrosyan today. I don't know why. I just wanted to watch that fight. Fun ass fight, dude. He always puts on a fun fight. He's super dangerous in every aspect of the game. I'm gonna side with RoboCop. I think he's more likely to find a finish in this one. He's also the younger fighter, believe it or not. And to be honest, I kind of want Chris Weidman's lick back. So I would like to see RoboCop beat up and hurt Brad Tavares.
Yep. Yeah. You broke it down, man. Gregory Rodrigues, absolutely. If anybody has finishing potential in this fight, it is certainly Gregory Rodrigues. He's got amazing jiu-jitsu. He's got a lot of power. He's fucking jacked, dude. His back is like, if you look at his back, it's absolutely jacked. Does he kind of look like a guy who would wear like a blouse to the club?
we originally in this original recording, we had what do they drink? I don't remember what you said, but I remember you saying that Gregory Rodrigues
like a cosmopolitan,
right, a cosmopolitan kind of guy, and you imagined that he'd be at the club wearing like a mesh see-through,
like a see-through tight ass, like just like tight ass, like a Night at the Roxbury ass shirt. I don't know why.
And more power to him. If I had those kind of muscles, bro, if that was my physique, I'd be rocking all sorts of weird shit.
Would you?
I mean, I'm rocking a fucking polo now. Who knows? Like, I'm a fashionista, bro. I'm down.
Are you a Maxxinista?
I don't know what that is. Oh, like TJ Maxx, the commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out TJ Maxx.
But yeah, listen, man. I like Brad Tavares. Gregory Rodrigues, we've seen that he has at times kind of a questionable potential chin, right? So, but the thing is, Brad Tavares has been kind of a decision machine lately. He hasn't gotten a knockout in like 10 years. He's always a tough fight, and he throws hard. He's got good leg kicks. He's goddamn impossible to take down. He might have the best takedown defense in the middleweight division. So I think the odds are kind of crazy on this, to be honest with you. I think it should be damn near a pick 'em. I would probably do like minus 125, something like that for Rodrigues. So when it comes to betting, I mean, I'm not touching this fight, man. And even like over under, I could see it going any which way. If there is a finish, I see Rodrigues getting the finish. I am picking Rodrigues myself. I'll say by sub.
Let's get it.
Yeah. So Brad Tavares is a tough fight for anybody, though, for what it's worth. So, anyway, moving on to the 12th fight of the night, we've got Ihor Potieria. He's taking on UFC newcomer and debutant Robert Bryczek. And, of course, Robert Bryczek is coming in with a lot of hype. He's got a ton of power. He's crisp. He's got really good striking technique. Ihor Potieria, this is actually, he's moving down to 185, right? So he didn't look like the most jacked 205er. So that's kind of a question mark in this fight. I don't know, man. Maybe it's the bad taste of him just beating up on an old ass Shogun, or I don't know what it is. I just don't love his style. He's super cocky and like he showboats a ton, which I'm okay with that. Like if you're somebody that like deserves to or does it in a funny way. I just don't get it, man. I don't really see, I think the chin isn't necessarily great. For me, the biggest thing is the cardio is not great, right? So his cardio is pretty bad. Robert Bryczek has 5 KOs in a row. He really passes the eye test for me. He's a dominant striker. 5 straight first-round finishes by KO. I mean, that'll get your attention, right? He's really dangerous coming forward. I think that's when he's at his best. Tons of power in the hands. Hands are just dangerous as fuck. So, yeah, I mean, I just don't see Potieria winning it. I think he gets knocked out badly. I'm going to say in the first round. But, again, it's kind of a question mark because we haven't seen Ihor Potieria at 185 in the UFC yet.
Yeah, so very interesting fight here because Ihor Potieria, I think he has a ton of power. I think he is pretty damn good, but it's that cardio that fails him. His last fight out, I forgot who that was against. Was that Rodolfo Bellato? Yeah, it was Rodolfo
Why
Bellato.
is he this high? Why is this fight this high on the card?
I don't know, but anyways, the Bellato fight, man, he was kind of like whooping his ass. He almost had him out of there. It was one of the craziest comebacks that you'll ever see. So look, I think Potieria is pretty good, but I get where you're coming from, man. It's just like there is a little something about his attitude, and maybe it is the Shogun thing. People just don't seem like too drawn to him, but he's very young, 27 years old. If he loses this fight, I imagine the UFC ends up cutting him, but he's one of those guys that I can see coming back by the time he's 30 and making a little bit of a run if he kind of improves what he needs to improve upon. Robert Bryczek, good boxing, good jab, good footwork, good striker in general, great feints, man. He's a boxer. That's what it is. There's nothing really besides the boxing that he's got. If Potieria had cardio, Dino, I would comfortably pick him here. He is the bigger fighter, but he doesn't have that cardio, so I can't comfortably pick him. Super damn close fight, but I am going Bryczek by TKO late round 2. Hopefully Poteria's cardio's fixed, man, and we can see a better fight.
He's got a great record too, 20-5. I mean, it's nothing to scoff at. So, yeah, I'm just curious why this is this high on the card. I'm not touching it from a betting perspective, like you said, really, really close. I absolutely could see Ihor Potieria winning this. He's got some power. He's not bad, right? So, anyway, moving on to the co-main event of the evening, we've got Dan 50K Ige taking on Andre Touchy Fili. This is, like I said, the co-main event of this card. What do you think about this one?
All right, 2 guys, Dino, here with badass nicknames. Let's start with 50K Dan Ige. He's a striker. He's a kickboxer. He's a kickboxer. Very dangerous. Good power, fast, explosive. He does have good jiu-jitsu in his back pocket. He showed good takedown defense against Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell last time out. Eventually, the wrestling caught up to him, and Bryce Mitchell was able to hold him down and kind of control him there. I'm not really too worried about that in this fight. It should be a stand and bang affair with Andre Fili. He's another dude that is well-rounded. A guy, like I said last time, was just thrown out to the wolves, man. I feel like they threw him out there a little too early. His losses have come to super high-level guys in the UFC. He's no joke, man. 11-9 in the UFC, 20 fights in. How can you be a joke? Tons of finishes, tons of decisions. He can also get it done anywhere. He's a team alpha male guy, so we know the grappling's good. Another thing, his chin is pretty sus. That's like the negative on Andre Fili. It's not necessarily bad, but like it'll be bad from time to time. I don't know how to explain that, but that's what it is. He gets cracked often. He gets hella brawly. To me, this is Dan Ige all day. If Fili does what he does, which is get brawly as hell, it's not a good recipe because Dan Ige will crack your ass. And Fili's touchable. So Dan Ige by TKO is what I'm going with.
Yeah, I mean, you broke it down, man. I just see this being kind of like a very technical striking match. And at times getting brawly, but for the most part taking place on the feet, man. Dan Ige's boxing, in my opinion, is some of the best in the division. I know the record's not like incredible at 7-7, but I really, really like Andre Fili. I like his post-fight speech last time out. I like his style. We talked about him before, right? Like, I think he's somebody that maybe he was thrown to the wolves too soon, right? So, like you said, so I want to pick him, man. I really do. I'm pretty comfortable picking Dan Ige here. I just think he's going to land the better shots. I think we see a decision, to be honest with you. I think Andre Fili is just really tough and is going to be able to stick it out. I could see a knockout for Dan Ige. I just don't see. I don't see a way that Andre Fili is going to win this. Right? If it's a point fight, right? If they're just landing shots on the feet, I don't think he's going to win that against Dan Ige. Andre Fili doesn't, in my opinion, really have that. I know he got a nice knockout last time, but it was like a perfect shot. I don't think he has like a ton of power. So I really like the guy. I kind of want him to win. But yeah, man, I think Dan Ige is going to take it. I'll say by decision. I think it's going to be close. For what it's worth, from a betting perspective, I am going to take Dan Ige here. I just feel on the money line. I just feel pretty comfortable. Minus 175. The odds are kind of where they should be, but I don't mind that. So give me Dan Ige money line in that one.
Let's go.
And then, of course, moving on to the main event of the evening, we've got Jack Hermansson taking on Joe Bodybags Pyfer. Very, very exciting event at 185. To me, this is pretty straightforward in the sense that, well, first of all, let me just say, Jack Hermansson is really good, right? He's good everywhere. He's a good wrestler. You know, he's grappled with Hamzat and all these guys, and, you know, he's got some really good wins. He shocked me, you know, I think it was last time out when he beat Chris Curtis on the feet. Was not expecting that whatsoever. Chris Curtis, obviously, a really good striker. Jack Hermansson, not necessarily known for his striking, but he's not bad, man. He's pretty good everywhere. He's a true veteran of the game. He's been at the top of this division just as long as like somebody like Whitaker, right? I mean, he's been there essentially the same amount of time. So I just think he's getting a little bit older at this point. Joe Pyfer is really, really good everywhere. And I think this is kind of the UFC did this on purpose, right? There's a reason this is the main event. They want to feature Joe Pyfer. They want him to beat somebody and in the top 10, let's say. And Jack Hermansson, I think, is one of the more winnable fights for him on paper. And he's got a ton of power. I mean, an absolute ton of power. He did that thing with that Francis did, the punching thing. They said he has a harder punch than Francis. I don't necessarily believe that, but he's got a lot of power, and there's no question about that. And he's strong as shit, and he's got good jiu-jitsu and grappling. So I think he's really good, man. I'm excited to see what he can be. I think this is a very winnable fight for him. I'm going to say sub. I'm going to say Joe Pyfer by sub in, let's say, the third round, maybe the second round.
I wonder what the sub pays in this fight, especially like third round sub, fourth round sub, because I bet those odds are pretty crazy. Yeah, man. I pretty much agree with you. I want to pick Jack Hermansson here. I want to say he's too experienced. I want to say he's too skilled, but I don't necessarily think I can, right? The UFC made this matchup to get Joe Pyfer not only into the rankings, but into the top 10 picture. So with a win here, Joe Pyfer is in the top 10. He said it in his interview with the UFC that he just did with Laura Sanko. He's like, hey, man, if I win this fight, I'm 1 to maybe 2 fights away from a title shot. And I think that's true. You never know what can happen at the top of the division. Somebody gets hurt. Somebody has to pull out of a title fight. Joe Pyfer's there, right time, right place. I think it is the right time and right place for Joe Pyfer right now. Jack Hermansson's aging. I'm going to go Joe Pyfer by knockout in the third or fourth round. I think he's going to hurt Jack. He's going to slow him down, stuff a couple takedowns, initiate where this fight takes place, right? We hear that term a lot. Jack Hermansson obviously wants this fight to take place in the clinch, up against the cage and on the ground. Joe Pyfer wants to be the striker. Even though he's got good grappling, he wants this fight to take place, in the middle of the octagon. I think he's too young and too strong, man. I do believe in Joe Pyfer. I think he's something to be reckoned with, and I think we have a new star on our hands.
And the UFC certainly needs it now. So
yeah.
As far as betting goes, I am going to take Joe Pyfer in the parlay at the money line at minus 258. It just makes too much sense. So for what it's worth, I'm definitely doing it. Should I go ahead and recap the parlay then?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that little 10-7 logo up there.
There you go.
I'm going to put you on the screen by yourself, buddy. Enjoy.
All right, so let's go ahead and recap the parlay. So we've got a 5-item parlay this week. The odds, and they end up being plus 476. All right, so I'm going to run through it again. We said Daniel Marcos on the money line. I just think he's better than Arichi Lang. He's undefeated, which doesn't necessarily mean much, but I just think he's better. He's going to land the better shots. I like him at the money line, minus 265. Next one, we've got over 2.5 rounds. I'm not taking anybody on the money line. I'm doing over 2.5 rounds. in the Fernie Garcia versus Hyder Emil fight. That's coming in at minus 238. I just don't really see a finish in that one. Speaks for itself. This is probably the riskiest one, and it's the third one on the parlay. It's my girl Loma Lookboonmee at minus 285 on the money line versus Bruna, Brazil. I just really like her. I'm pretty confident picking her. I know it's a women's fight. I know the odds are crazy, but I think it's enough for me to add it to the parlay. So, fourth item on the parlay, we've got Dan Ige. I'm taking him on the money line versus Andre Fili, minus 175. And then, of course, in the main event, I'm taking Joe Pyfer, minus 258. It's a fight that the UFC needs him to win. We need a star in the division. Altogether, it's plus 476. So what that means, of course, is you bet $100, you'll get back 576. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Dino Bam Bam, you got anything else to add, bro?
No, I got nothing to add, man. The only thing I have to add is if you guys enjoyed, do us a favor. Hit that little like button. Ring the little bell. Dino, hit him with the bell. That's the sound of the bell, guys. You ring that. That notifies you when our videos drop. And you're going to want to be notified next week because UFC 298, Volkanovski versus Topuria is about to be a banger. We're dropping a shit ton of content. I'm like kind of looking past this fight night already, Dino. I'm already in 298 mode, right? Like I'm ready for countdown. I'm ready for embedded. I'm ready for all that shit. I'm ready for the smoke, bro. I am ready for the smoke.
Especially with all the shit that Ilia Topuria has been talking. So I'm pumped to see that one.
Dude, I am absolutely pumped. Anything else, Dino?
That's it, my man.
That's it, guys. He right there, that guy. See, to me, he's on the left of my screen, but I got to point this way for you guys. That right there is DS flexing them big ass arms. I'm Dino Bam Bam. We are the 10-7 MMA. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.